All right, day number 6. For day number 6, let's talk about temptation. Start with a quote here. It says, "In the battle between what you want now and what you want most, let the desire for long-term success overpower the temptation of immediate gratification." So I guess first we've got to look into what we feel like long-term success means. And I know for a Christian, long-term success means, at least to me, aiming towards what is best for our soul, aiming towards what the will of God is for us in our lives, aiming to be like Jesus. And there are so many things that can pop up through a day and through a week and onward that are absolutely not aiming towards us being the most like Christ. And that could be, lashing out at someone that cuts you off in traffic. That can be, a resentment that you've been building up over years and you won't speak to so-and-so person. It can just be a sinful pattern of the way that we think and or act. And it can be physical things too. The temptation, I always say, if I had it my way, I think we all had it our way, we'd sit on the couch and eat Cheetos and watch Netflix all day long, but we know that that's not beneficial. The immediate gratification of that would only last so long until we're in a really sad reality. So that quote, "In the battle between what you want now and what you want most, let the desire for long-term success overpower the temptation of immediate gratification." So aim towards that delayed gratification, and again, that's where you grow in spiritual growth, or even physical growth for that matter. The real building blocks and the foundations to make someone proficient or highly skilled at something, it takes time and it takes that delayed gratification. Which brings me to the scripture for today, and we're in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, and we'll go verses 12 through 13 or so. And it says, "So if you think you are standing firm, be careful that you don't fall. No temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind. And God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, He will also provide a way out so that you can endure it." So it says that God will provide a way out for us when we are tempted. And it was described by a guest speaker at church one time here a few years back of what really temptation is. And it's really put in perspective and kind of changed the way that I even view temptation, because at least in the past, I would think temptation is something that's just so challenging. And, we all have, again, whether it's food, whether it's laziness, and anything in between, whatever our temptation is, it'd be like, man, I just can't overcome it. I've tried, and I don't know a strategy other than willpower that in my human emotion eventually gives way. I don't know how else to do it other than trying to grit through not being tempted, and then I'd go back to whatever the said thing is. But this guest speaker brought it up in a way that was really convicting, in a way that's helped me. And he said, there's two parts to temptation. There's two variables that have to happen for someone to be tempted by something. The first one is it has to be something that's a weakness for you, which obviously you're going to be tempted by a thing that you're gravitating towards. So first thing, weakness. The second thing, there has to be an opportunity to access that thing. For example, if if it's 2 a.m. and the grocery stores aren't open and I just simply do not have junk food in my home, and there's not really anywhere I can access it, I might have a weakness for junk food. We probably all do. But even though I have the weakness, if I don't have the access to the junk food in that moment, then eventually, my mind's going to drift off of that, because I just know, common sense wise, that I can't obtain that. if it's 2 a.m. and I'm hungry or distracted playing a video game or whatever the case is, and again, I try not to even ever do that, but if the junk food's in the home and I have a weakness for it, I'm going to be 99% more likely to go get said thing if it's just in my cupboard at home. So I think that could be the same for a lot of things in our life. Is, are we, back to yesterday's talk about burning the ships and not giving ourselves a way out? Is there a way that we can do that with temptation? So, think whatever example it is in your mind that you can relate to, but is there anything that you're struggling with? And if you're really having a hard time with the weakness part, that, hey, I have this natural inclination, I want to do this thing. Well then, okay, can you change the access? Can you set up parameters or guardrails in your life to ensure you're not around the junk food or around those negative people or around, the things that you shouldn't be looking at, or insert thing there. So I think that's a really important thing if I'm ever tempted by anything now, it's putting it in that framework. I don't need to access it, and I need to work on, that said thing, not having a weakness towards it. If you can eliminate one of those variables, then you're by definition, you just can't be tempted by it. You can't access it. So, and then just to go back one more time to these verses here, Paul's just writing to the church in Corinth and trying to pass along some encouragement. They're not doing some things that are honoring God, and he says, so if you think you're standing firm, be careful that you don't fall. We talk about building the foundation, build the ship because the storm's coming. And it sounds like in this case, there were storms that were in these people's lives, and they maybe didn't have the best ship built around the best foundation, and sin and temptation was overcoming some of them. But again, no temptation has overtaken you except what is common to man, and God is faithful. He won't tempt you beyond what you can bear. And even when you are tempted, he will also provide a way out so that you can endure it. So stay disciplined. Think about the delayed gratification, as we talked about in the quote, and do your part as a human to identify what is tempting you and eliminate one of those variables that we talked about. So do your part as a human, and obviously let God do his thing, as he's going to be in our life and in leading us, and just stay close to him. And that's day 6.